Right now, on a shelf above my workbench here in Okinawa, there stands a row of plain cardboard boxes. 9 of them, all the same width, stacked 2 high and 5 across, each with a small paper label facing outward in my own handwriting. To a stranger walking into my shed, it would look like an ordinary shelf of ordinary boxes. But every one of those boxes once held a pair of shoes bought over the years for my wife, my children, myself, and every one of them, the day the shoes came out, was destined for the fire pit or the rubbish bin, exactly as it is in nearly every home in the world. Instead, that row of shoe boxes now holds every screw, hinge, hook, and small hardware item on this entire homestead, sorted so precisely that I can walk into this shed in the dark, reach without looking, and put my hand on a 2-inch wood screw in under 10 seconds. Today, I am going to show you exactly how a simple cardboard shoebox, free, waiting in your closet right now, becomes the backbone of a shed more organized than any store-bought system you could buy. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I have lived my whole life on the island of Okinawa, in the far south of Japan. In my grandfather's shed, there was no plastic bin from a hardware chain, no rolling toolbox with foam-cut drawers. There was a wall of small wooden boxes, each one built or salvaged, each one holding its own small kingdom of nails, or washers, or coiled wire, or leather scraps, sorted with a precision that any modern warehouse manager would admire, built entirely from whatever containers a careful man could find rather than buy. When cardboard shoeboxes became common on our island in my middle years, my grandfather did not scorn them as flimsy or unworthy. He studied them, the way he studied every new material, and found that their uniform size, their sturdy walls, and their close-fitting lids made them, in truth, better suited to sorting small hardware than almost anything else a shed could offer for free. To a mind trained in Matanai, waste nothing, a box that has already been paid for once, sitting empty in a closet, is not garbage. It is a gift waiting for its second and far longer career. But before I show you the method, let me tell you the part that should make you a little angry. Walk into any hardware store or home organization shop and look at what they sell you for exactly this purpose. Stackable plastic storage bins, $10 or $15 each, sold in sets of 6 or 8 for $50, $60, $80, promising to bring order to your garage or shed. Look closely at what you are actually buying, a rectangular box, roughly shoebox-sized, made of thin plastic that yellows and grows brittle within a few years in a hot shed, cracking along its corners the very first time it is dropped or stacked too high. The organization industry has built an entire wing of its business selling you, at real expense, the exact shape and function of a container you already own by the dozen and were about to throw away for free. There is no profit in telling you that the empty box on your closet floor already does the job perfectly, so nobody tells you. I will. Now, here is where almost everyone goes wrong when they try to use cardboard boxes for shed storage. And if you do not understand this one thing, your boxes will collapse under weight, sag with damp, or fall apart within a single season, and you will conclude that cardboard was never a serious answer to begin with. The single mistake is treating a shoebox as though it were already finished, when in truth, its second career only truly begins once you have reinforced and sealed it against the two enemies exactly every shed presents that a closet would never does. The
moisture
cardboard will
and
soften
weight
at the corners,
stacked upon weight.
sag under the weight
A
above
shoebox
it,
in a
and
bedroom
eventually
closet
give way
holds
entirely,
shoes and nothing
spilling
more,
its sorted
sitting
contents
alone
into
or
a
stacked
hardware
too high
avalanche
at
on the
most,
shed floor.
in dry,
The
even
old
air.
households never
A
made
shed
this
is a
mistake
different world
because they
entirely.
never expected
Damp
any
mornings,
container to serve
dust,
a new purpose,
mice, and the
without first
temptation
being
to stack
prepared for
boxes
it.
5 and
The
6
same
high to
wisdom I
save
have
floor
given you
space.
before about wood that must be charred before it goes into the ground, or cloth that must be read before it is cut. So before we walk through the 10 uses, let us begin with that preparation, the simple, cheap reinforcement that turns a fragile shoebox into a shed container that will serve for years. The reinforcement takes 3 simple steps, and together they cost less than a cup of coffee for a whole shelf of boxes. First, the lid. A shoebox lid, used exactly as it comes, tends to slide and shift under stacked weight. So before anything else, reinforce the corners of both the box and its lid with a few strips of strong packing tape. Run diagonally across each corner on the inside and outside alike. This single habit, taking perhaps 2 minutes per box, is the difference between a box that holds its shape for a decade and one that folds inward the first time something heavy rests upon it. Second, the moisture. Even a shed with a sound roof carries damp air through the changing seasons, and plain cardboard drinks that damp slowly over time, softening from the inside out long before you would ever notice from the outside. A light coat of clear varnish, shellac, or even leftover exterior With your paint boxes reinforced
over
this
the
way,
whole outer
let us
surface
walk
of the
through
box
the 10 uses
and allowed to
from
dry
the
fully
simplest
to the
seals
most
the
refined.
cardboard's fibers.
Use one
against that
the sorted
slow,
hardware
damp,
wall,
and can add
this
years
is the
to
use
its
I
working
opened
life.
with, for the
And it is
cost
the
of a few
foundation
pennies
of everything
worth of
else
finish per box.
Take a dozen
Third,
or more
and
reinforced
this one
boxes,
costs nothing
all
at
the
all.
same size.
Never
if you
let
can
a
manage
shoebox
it,
sit
and
directly
stand them
on their
bare
sides
sheds
on a
floor,
simple shelf,
where it will draw
openings
damp
facing
up from the
outward like
concrete
small
or
drawers,
earth beneath it,
rather than
and
lids
rot from the
closed on
bottom,
top.
regardless of
Into
how well
each
you have
goes one
sealed the
category
rest.
of hardware
A simple
and nothing
wooden
else.
shelf. Even
One
a plank
box for
laid
wood
across
screws,
2 bricks,
sorted
keeps
further by
every
length
box
if
you
you have
own
enough boxes
dry
to
from
spare,
below,
as
one
well
for
as
sealed
nails,
from without,
one for hinges, one for washers and small nuts, one for electrical odds and ends. Label the front edge of each box clearly with a marker or a small paper tag, exactly as my grandfather labeled his wooden boxes decades before cardboard ever reached our island. A wall of a dozen such boxes, built for free from what most people throw away, organizes a shed as thoroughly as any bought system, and unlike plastic, a labeled cardboard front takes ink beautifully and never needs a special marker to write upon it. Use 2. The Seed and Bulb Library. For those of you who garden, as most of you surely do, a shoebox lined with a folded sheet of newspaper makes an ideal home for storing seed packets, sorted by planting season or by vegetable family, kept dry and dark, exactly as good seed wants to be kept. A second box, its bottom layered with dry sand, holds bulbs and corms through the winter months, the cardboard breathing just enough to prevent the rot that a sealed plastic container so often causes. My own seed library, box by labeled box, sits on a shelf in the cool, dry corner of my shed, and I have never once lost a packet to damp since I began storing them this way. Every homestead accumulates small orphaned parts, a spare washer for a tap, a replacement blade for a utility knife, a handful of assorted bolts left over from some finished project, and a dedicated shoebox for exactly these odds and ends, kept near the workbench, saves you the maddening search through a dozen wrong drawers when a small repair calls for a small part you know you own somewhere. Keep this one box slightly less rigidly sorted than the others. Its whole purpose is to be the honest, organized home for things that do not yet have a category of their own.
Use 4. The twine and cord keeper. A shoebox with a single small hole cut in one end holds a ball of garden twine, kitchen string, or light cord. The free end threaded out through the hole so you may pull exactly the length you need without the whole ball ever escaping to roll across the shed floor and tangle itself, as loose twine always seems to do. This small trick alone has saved me more frustrated mornings than I can count. Use 5. The drying and curing tray. With its lid removed entirely, a reinforced shoebox, its base lined with a few sheets of newspaper, becomes a shallow tray for drying herbs, curing small batches of garlic or onions, or laying out the citrus peel I taught you in an earlier lesson. Its low sides allow air to move freely while keeping the contents contained and easy to carry from a sunny spot outdoors back to a sheltered shelf if rain threatens. Cut down to roughly 2 or 3 inches deep, the lower portion of a shoebox, its bottom pierced with a few drainage holes exactly as I taught you with the old kettle, makes a serviceable seed-starting tray for a windowsill or a sheltered cold frame. Line it first with a folded plastic bag if you wish to extend its working life through a single growing season, and you have a free alternative to the plastic seed trays sold for several dollars each at the garden center. Use 7. The Preserved Harvest Label Archive. For those who can or preserve their harvest, a shoebox makes an excellent home for storing spare canning lids, labels, and the small notebook where a careful household records what was put up and when. Kept together in one place, rather than scattered through drawers, this box saves real confusion come the depths of winter, when memory alone can no longer be trusted to say which jar is which. Use 8. The Shed's Document Box. A single reinforced shoebox, its lid kept firmly on, makes a perfectly serviceable home for the paperwork every homestead accumulates. Receipts for major purchases and their warranties, instructions for equipment, a running list of what was planted where and when. Keep this particular box on the driest shelf you have, well away from any risk of a leak, for paper forgives dampness far less than seeds or hardware ever will. Use 9. The Winter Glove and Small Tool Caddy. By the shed door, a shoebox holds work gloves, sorted by pair rather than left to wander loose and mismatched as gloves so often do, along with the small daily use tools, pruning snips, a folding knife, a ball of the twine from use number 4, that you reach for every single time you step outside. Kept at the door rather than buried on a back shelf, this box saves the small daily minutes that add up across a year to real hours of searching avoided. Use 10, and my favorite of all, the memory box for the grandchildren. Not every use of a shoebox need be purely practical. A single box, set aside My
and
own
never
shelf
put to hard
holds
work,
one such
makes
box
a
among
fine
the
home
hardware
for the
and
small
seeds,
treasures a
and it is
homestead
in
generates,
truth the one
without
I am
anyone
most
quite
reluctant to
planning
ever
it.
throw away.
A pressed flower
Now,
from the garden,
the extra
a
layers,
particularly
the
fine
small
chestnut,
refinements that
a
separate
photograph
a shed
of
with
this
some
year's
boxes
harvest,
on a shelf,
a child's
from a
drawing
shed
of
that
the
runs
chickens.
like a well-kept kitchen. First, keep your sizes consistent wherever you can. A shelf of boxes all the same width stacks and stands far more stably than a jumble of odd sizes, and it is worth saving several months' worth of shoe boxes from your own household or asking a shoe store for their empties rather than using the very first box that comes to hand for each new project. My grandfather's wooden boxes were all built to matching dimensions for exactly this reason, long before cardboard offered the same convenience for free. Second, label both the front and the lid. A box stood on its side, opening outward, shows its label on the front edge for easy reading from the shelf, but the same box, on the rare occasion it must be lifted down and its lid opened from above, benefits from a second small label on the lid itself, so you need never open a box to discover you have grabbed the wrong one. 2 minutes of extra labeling saves a great many minutes of searching across the following years. Third, rotate and refresh your reinforcement every few years. Even a well-sealed, well-shelved shoebox will eventually show its age. Tape yellowing and lifting at the corners, the varnish worn thin from years of hands sliding it in and out. A shed inventory once a year or two, refreshing the tape and finish on any box beginning to show wear, keeps the whole system running for a decade or more, sent me to rather than needing to be rebuilt from scratch confused every before his wall of labeled containers. Let me tell you now, but I did not tell you the rest of that evening. Small boxes. After he found the screw because himself, it is where I first learned 3 seconds that true without organization searching is not about me down and made me learn the wall myself, but about how completely it is understood by the person who built it. Until I too could reach into the dark and find exactly what was asked for. A shed that only you understand, he told me, is not truly organized. It is only organized for as long as you are alive to remember it. That lesson has stayed with me longer than almost anything else he taught me. My own shoebox wall is labeled clearly enough, I hope, that my own grandchildren could walk into this shed after I am gone and find what they need without once having to guess. And that is the larger truth beneath these 10 small uses. We have been taught that organization must be bought, that true order requires a trip to the store and a stack of matching plastic bins with a brand name printed on the side. But the finest organizing system I have ever known was built entirely from what a shoe store gave away for free, understood completely by the man who built it, and passed down, box by labeled box, to the next generation. To take the empty box from your closet floor and give it a second career, sorting the small treasures of your shed, is not merely thrift, though the money saved on plastic bins is real and adds up steadily across the years. It is a way of building order with your own hands, understood in your own mind, rather than purchasing a stranger's idea of what your shed should look like. That is Matnai, entire and complete. Waste nothing, not the cardboard, not the money, not the small daily minutes lost to a shed that has no order at all, and not your own 2 hands, which are more capable of building a system that truly serves you than any store shelf has ever offered. So tell me, in the comments below, where in this world do you live, and how many empty shoeboxes are sitting in your closet right now, waiting for their second career in your shed or garage? Tell me your place and your boxes, because I read every message that comes to me, and I would dearly love to know which of these 10 uses you build first, and what small daily frustration in your own shed finally disappears once you do. And the next time we sit together, I will show you what my grandfather did with the lids of those same boxes, set aside separately from their bases, small flat trays that most people would never think twice about, and that he turned into some of the most useful little sorting surfaces a workbench has ever known. Until then, waste nothing, build your own order, and remember always that the people who lived closest to the earth understood things that we, with all